Hello, YouTube, and welcome to our next topic on fear and how fear leaves you stuck. The impact of fear on your thoughts is something that people often are blinded. The impact of fear on people's thoughts is something that people are often blinded by. They often don't realize that it's fear that's working in them because we have gotten to a point where we have trained ourselves so well that when we say something that's fearful, we pass it off as though it's a truth and it's not an excuse. It is what it is. But there are some things that are not, it is what it is. Some things are just 100% bold-faced fear. And either you get to the place that you deal with them or they continue to undermine any level of success that you could potentially reach. You see, when people are afraid, that's how people get bullied. When they listen to people without listening for the truth. Remember, where there is truth, fear cannot stand. It can't stand. You cannot know the truth and continue to be afraid. And one of the biggest challenges for people who are quote unquote Christian is this: either you believe the Bible or you believe the word. And if you believe the Bible, then what reason is there to be fearful? Why are you not often trying all sorts of things? You see, there's a difference between keeping something at a distance for safety sakes and being afraid of something. So let me share with you. Recently, a good friend of mine went to the Middle East, and she went with her daughter or her daughters and another female friend. Well, if you're familiar with the Middle East, they have certain customs involving women that are not always healthy or safe or places that we should be. I remember when I went to Turkey, I learned very quickly that the place of women is very different than it is here in the United States. And I remember having to leave my hotel room one night so that I could go and make a phone call. This was long, long, long ago. Okay. Before cell phones had the flexibility that they have today. And as I was walking over there, because of the time difference of when I could make the phone call, I noticed that there were absolutely no women on the streets. And I remember looking around and going, this is weird. Well, I saw a restaurant. I said, okay, here we go. I'm gonna go check out this restaurant because guaranteed, if it's okay for women to be out at night, there'll be female waitresses. Let me tell you, I walked up, that entire restaurant was covered in men, and I said, oh boy, we got a problem. So, was that being afraid of a situation? Absolutely not. It was 100% being aware of, hmm, I am in a different country that is not my own, that has customs that I don't want to dishonor. Sadly, because I had to make the phone call, I had to keep going. I made the phone call. I went back to my hotel room, end of story. There's a difference between protecting yourself and living in fear. Living in fear would never have been in Turkey so that I could have had that experience. Living in fear would have been my friend never going to the Middle East because she was afraid. It's really easy to downplay who people are because you've never met any of them. And that's a problem because now you are living in fear. You have brothers and sisters in this world. There is no reason you should not be able to meet. And yes, as long as you are part of the human race, guess what? We are all brothers and sisters. It doesn't matter what shade you are. It doesn't matter what shade I am. None of that matters. And some of us think that it does. It's huge, it's tremendous. So, if you happen to be one of those people, let me help you with this. You see this shade right here? This is the shade you spend hours in the sun getting skin cancer to look like. How about you just realize that we're all brothers? We're all sisters. We are all related. How about you get to the place that you're willing to understand that all of us are here to support one another? Listen, this is what fear does. It divides people. And it doesn't just divide people who are not related, it divides people within their own family. But each one of us has the power to walk out of that fear by allowing fear to meet face to face with the truth, by going deep inside of ourselves and saying, what is it that I'm holding on to? And figuring out what that root is that needs to be plucked out. Because there is a root. And until you're willing to dig out that root, guess what? You're going to keep struggling. You have got to get that root dug out. No matter what happens, you got to bring out that root. You with me? Because as long as you have that root hanging in there, we're going to have a problem. You're going to have a problem. How do you begin to do that? So let me tell you how you do it. Number one, you take a cold hard look at yourself. But you got to measure yourself against something that is immovable and unshakable. And so, for this example, the only person you're going to be able to measure yourself against is Jesus. Number one, are you willing to be honest with everybody in your life? Tell them things even when it won't be something that they want to hear. Number two, are you willing to do the same with yourself? Are you willing to look yourself in the mirror and say, these are the things that you are not doing? Number three, are you willing to start taking your role as a leader and understanding that you sitting back on the sidelines is costing people not only their lives, but their opportunity to grow? Because whether you are a single father, a married woman, or a single woman, you've got to be willing to rise. And the things that you do and say to your children have the opportunity to damage them or to divide the relationship so much so that they want nothing to do with you. So before you take an action, make sure that the repercussion of that action is something that you really desire to live with. Because if it's something you don't mind living with, by all means, have at it. But then don't cry when the result was not what you expected. You have to want to be honest with yourself about the things that it's costing you, about the harms that are coming as a result of the decisions that you're making. If you are sitting in a job that you hate, you are only in that job because you have not accepted that you are far better and far more talented than you have given yourself credit for. And that's the thing I want you to see. So, how do we find what's called our oil? That's a good question. Let me tell you, sometimes it takes a couple of tries. So, let me tell you about one of my clients. He, uh, he had a wife, and his wife was a quilter. And so he had her start making quilts. Well, the problem was that the quilts weren't selling quite the way he wanted them to. And so he realized that that might not be her oil, but he realized that that was his oil. He really enjoyed helping her quilt. And so he sat down at the machine one day and started quilting. Next thing you know, he has quilts and kits and all this stuff going out, and the family is starting to make money, all because he found his oil. It was an accident. He just tried something. It didn't work for one, but it definitely worked for him. And it gave him the opportunity to be at home to deal with issues, to give his kids something to do, something that they could work in. So they started learning discipline and becoming more grown up. One decision changed his entire family. At what point are you going to make the one decision to be honest with yourself, to look for your oil? Your oil is nothing more than what God put in you for you to keep moving through life and move to the next level. The world was not designed for us to sit at a desk and work for other people. It was designed for us to be at the head of our own thing. And don't buy into the lie that there's not enough to go around for everybody. Of course, there is. But you have to be willing to do some things, legal things, that allow people to understand what it is you're doing and what value you have. So, are you ready today to start looking at your oil? Because it's going to mean looking at what you like. Do I love to cook? What do I cook well? What do I do well? How can I this? How and you've got to look at those different things. And you've got to be willing to dream. Because if you're not willing to dream, no matter how hard you look at your oil, you will not take the first step to making it happen. I'll see you next time.